Since Russia's offensive in Ukraine began in late February after months of denials from officials that any invasion was planned, Moscow's diplomats in the UN Security Council have found themselves increasingly isolated but unshaken in holding firm to the Kremlin's official positions.
Украинским властям выполнить Минские соглашения.
The Ukrainian authorities simply had to implement the Minsk agreements, which they publicly repudiated, using your patronage and support, and remaining under the illusion that they would enjoy complete impunity. They enjoyed feeling themselves to be a part of the so-called civilized world. They enjoyed being your vassals. Interesting, in the light of the current circumstances, are the bankrupt Ukrainian authorities deeply regretful of what is now taking place?
But Western nations accuse Russia of lies and wild conspiracy theories to justify what they believe is an unprovoked war, in which they allege the brutalization of civilian populations and infrastructure that, for example, have reduced the city of Mariupol to a decimated shell, where the UN and International Committee of the Red Cross has had limited success in negotiating the opening of humanitarian corridors that have allowed for the evacuation of hundreds of civilians in recent days. Moscow's envoy offered an alternative perspective.
Не могу не отметить.
I cannot but note that the Secretary General's visit to Russia and Ukraine was portrayed both by media outlets and Western politicians in a completely distorted way. There is, in this way, a deliberate impression created that the UN and Ukraine have managed to entice Russia to open up a humanitarian corridor for the evacuation of civilians from the Azovstal steel plant. Incidentally, the Russian side has regularly been opening humanitarian corridors there, and they, incidentally, are open today as well. The problem lies in the following. The Azov fighters who are at Azovstal prefer to use civilians as human shields.
The High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, told the Council her office continued to document evidence of arbitrary detentions, possible enforced disappearances, summary executions, and sexual violence perpetrated mainly by Russian forces, but warned that alleged violations involved both sides, drawing this response.
Не касаясь сути сказанного ею.
I will not delve into the essence of what she has stated, nor her unilateral one-sided assessments. We have a number of questions that arose in connection to that. However, I wish to recall for both colleagues and the High Commissioner herself that no other issues related to the question of the maintenance of international peace and security or protection of civilians fall under their purview.
Over the months, providing a host of reasons for the war, from liberating the breakaway Donbas republics to the denazification of Ukraine, Russophobia, and this.
Мы неоднократно говорили.
We've repeatedly talked about our security concerns, and you in the West brushed them aside. You did not take them seriously. You assured yourselves of the purely defensive nature of NATO, at the same time moving the borders of the alliance right up against our borders. And today you are talking about the global role of the alliance, including in Asia.
Nebenzia also slammed Western sanctions and bans as mere robbery of Russian citizens' private property, what the West deems an appropriate response, given Moscow's destabilizing aggression that has brought a security and humanitarian catastrophe to Europe. Sherwin Bryceby's SABC News, New York.